Day, the 5th of October 2022. We have entered the last quarter of 2022, just two, if you count October, 3 months to go, and the year will be ending. And a good time we are having, but of course with challenges. We have challenge of Ebola right now with us. COVID hasn't yet ended. But we hope that you're taking care wherever you are and in whatever activity you are undertaking. Welcome again to this edition of Behind the Headlines. Today we look at industrialization. Uganda at 60. What does it mean? Are we industrializing? Industrialization comes with a number of effects or impact, if you like. It means a lot. It means change in welfare, change in standards of living. It means the provision of employment. We are going to be looking at all those issues and the attendant things that go with them. To discuss all this, I have the Minister in charge of, the Minister of State in charge of Industry, the Honorable David Bahati, is with us at the extreme left. Honorable, you're most welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Charles, and thank you, viewers.
Good. Next to him, we have Mr. Kayemba Deo.
Kayemba.
Kayemba.
Yeah.
It is Kayemba. Kayemba Deo. Kayemba Deo is the chairperson of the Uganda Manufacturers Association. And UMA, if you like, they are known for organizing the Independence Trade Fair every year. And Deo, you're most welcome to the show.
Thank you, moderator. Good evening, viewers.
Good. Next to him is Dr. Patrick Birungi. Dr. Patrick Birungi is the Executive Director of the Uganda Development Corporation. This is, if you like, the businessman for government, so to speak. So he heads the business wing of the government of the Republic of Uganda. Doctor, you're most welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Charles, and good evening, viewers.
Next to Dr. Birungi is Honorable Martin Mapenduzi Ojara, and is the MP for Bardege Laibi in Gulu City. You're most welcome, Honorable.
Thank you very much, sir, and good evening, viewers.
Finally, we have Council Sarah Birete, who is the Executive Director of the Center for Constitutional Governance. Sarah, you're most welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Charles, and good evening, viewers.
Good. We just thought that, there are three or more very important as well activities or events happening this week. But we will be just making comments on the two later. There is Independence on Sunday, the 9th of October. This year, Uganda marks 60 years of self-rule, or independence as normally called. But I will ask the panel here. I don't know. I'm not going to guess if some of them were, alive by the time Uganda got independence, but a quick scan shows me that majority of them were not yet born. But if one or two were born, we will be knowing towards the, as we come to the end of the program. There is also tomorrow, Makerere University at 100. Now that is something, that's quite something. Makerere University celebrates or commemorates 100 years of existence since 1922 when it started as a college. We will be making a comment. I'll be asking this gentleman and lady what they remember about Makerere University within the show or towards the end. But today happens to be International Teachers' Day, a day when we take stock of teachers and the significance that teaching has been to all of us. I will start with that one, just the Teachers' Day. I need to ask this. All of them went through teachers, one way or the other, whether you call them lecturers, professors, teachers in primary or nursery, as they call them, nannies, whatever they call them. It's just any other name, but they are teachers that we have, through whose hands we have gone through. We have gone from. Honorable Bahati, in just 1 minute, just remember that one teacher who you remember, whether in nursery, primary, or at university, I don't know.
Yeah, thanks, Charis and viewers. First of all, I want to congratulate the teachers on this important day. I think teachers have played an important role in development of our society and our country. I do remember one teacher called James who taught me mathematics in primary school. Actually, most of them that I remember taught me mathematics both in primary and also at high school. And I think in one way or the other, they contributed to what I am today. Because I eventually studied business, Bachelor of Commerce, and then SCCA, and all of these really hinge on mathematics. So I want to appreciate them, those who taught us. I want to appreciate those who are still teaching our children, and to know that as a country and as government, we stand with you, and we know the challenges that you are going through, and we will do whatever it takes to make sure that we address those challenges.
Thank you very much. Mr. Kiemba, your teacher. Oh, are you yourself a teacher?
No, I'm a chemist by profession. One teacher that I remember very well is my former headmaster at Kololo High School. Was called Mr. Abbas Kawase Mukasa. He was the headmaster then.
He was a popular teacher, right?
Yeah. Yes, he was the headmaster then. I remember coming from Lakai and getting into his office. You know, I was not able to be admitted to St. Andrew's Kitovu, which was a school of maths for first choice. I lost time, so I couldn't get placed. And I walked into his office in shorts, and young man coming to S1 and told him I want a place in your school. He told me, why didn't you go to your school? I explained my situation. And when he listened, the next thing he did, he gave me an exercise book. He told me, go to S1A. And when I got challenges with accommodation about 2 terms later, he secured for me a scholarship from Uganda Muslim Supreme Council. And I was not a Muslim. The scholarship was coming from Libya. And throughout my 4 years of O-level, I was staying in a hostel on that scholarship that I received from him. And I went on to be what I am. Currently, I'm the chairman of Uganda Manufacturers Association. So he turned around my life.
Wow, that's a good one. That's a milestone indeed. Dr. Patrick, your teacher.
Thank you, Charles. First of all, I'm a teacher myself.
I suspected I didn't want to say it.
I taught economics at Makerere for 15 years before I moved out to do other things. But let me remember, if you allow me, 2 teachers. The first one is my primary 1 teacher, Mrs. Ruaruza, who taught me how to, held my hand and taught me how to write the letters and the numbers. I think I'll never forget, she still lives, so I'll never forget that particular teacher. And the second teacher is the one who got the best out of me. That was my PhD supervisor, Professor Hassan Rashid in South Africa. And I think those 2 teachers turned my life around.
Wow, wow, wow. Interesting, interesting. Yes, Ojara, Honorable, your teacher, what do you remember?
I'm not sure where to begin from, but I'll tell you.
You are also a teacher.
I'm also a teacher by profession. And I taught for a few years before getting into other things. But I'll tell you, great teachers turned me into a teacher.
Wow.
They played a big role in my life. There are quite a number of them. But if you ask me, there are 4 that I'll not forget to mention. Interestingly, all these are 8 teachers. One who was very close, I was very stubborn, a very stubborn young man, but also very hardworking. And I think Mr. Amone identified that earlier, so he was very close to me. And then later on, Mr. Uyiraben, and then later on, Mr. Okumu Charles, and then Odongtho. Those are 4 teachers from primary to A level. And especially Mr. Okumu Charles, when I was in my O level, and Mr. Odongtho, I think they shaped me because they were very close. I was a leader. And when I was ed prefect, my ed teacher was so close and he kept on talking to me. So to this day, I remember, and I think they played a big role in shaping who I am.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Sarah?
I think I will take from my neighbors. I want to mention...
About the stubbornness or about...
I'm sure she was more than that.
I think my teachers would do best answer that.
Yes, yes.
So I want to talk about 4 of my teachers. One is the class teacher for lower primary, Mrs. Kafaku. Normally she listens to this program.
Oh.
Who is my friend and a great mentor. Then the class teacher for upper primary, Mr. Ishanga, he listens to this program. He is also my great mentor and he, inspired me a lot. And for O level in Bweranyanji, Teacher Mary Mbabas, I know you're watching. Great work that you people do. And for A level, Mr. John Tereraho, who now works with the World Vision as the leader for advocacy work.
Wow.
He's also a co-parent with me where I have my children somewhere. But I have my big sister who is a lecturer at Nkumba University, and she shared this message, which I thought is a good way of appreciating teachers. Great inventors and leaders are not born. They are motivated and inspired to do great things by great teachers out there. So I want to, Mrs. Musime Chiguri, I've read your message, and happy Teachers Day to all of you teachers. You do a great work mentoring all of us.
Thank you very much. Finally, for me, the thing I like about teachers, first, this World Teachers Day is the theme. They say the transformation of education starts with transforming a teacher.
Yep. That's
a great, for me, a theme for the teachers. The second one is, I was just scanning around very quickly. I realized I have had 4 teachers in our family, but one pastor, an uncle, who, inspired me to join journalism. He was a literature teacher. And the thing I liked about him, he spoke very good English and wrote perfect English, the late Robert Jalmore. Then later, my elder sister, my brother that I follow, all became teachers, but none of them practices it now. Then I have a younger one, Richard, who is a banker now, teaching, but none of them, but he also doesn't practice. Now, finally, the thing I remember 2 teachers. One was a reverend sister. And the thing I liked about her, she was called Antonia. She was a Mexican, white. But she was a stellar disciplinarian. And you wouldn't get away with, in discipline. I was extremely stubborn, but she told me, I like that you work hard, but you will not get away with wrongdoing. And, but she never touched me. That was the thing I liked about her at a school called Angal Secondary School. Then the final one is a man who taught me something I've never forget about nutrition. He was a teacher called Mr. Onegi, also in Angal Secondary School, in S2. He taught biology. And he was a scientist, but I'm told some of these scientists that when the late Idi Amin said, there are too many people who want to become doctors. Now, This side in the middle, this side will become teachers. This side you are going to go ahead with your medicine. And that guy was among those people.
Those who went the other side. Yeah.
Now he told me, people waste a lot of food. They eat too much and waste food that they don't need to be good, to be healthy, nutritious food. That, you know, you're supposed to, a normal healthy person is supposed to eat only 2 eggs, boiled eggs. But you find people eating 4 or 5, you're wasting food. I've never forgotten anyone.
In a day?
Yes, in a day. That's what he said, and I've never forgotten him. But there are many teachers, of course, who have shaped my life, university, at master's level, and I recognize all of you, our teachers, and may your day be blessed, and may all your dreams come to pass. We recognize all of you. Now, Uganda at 60, industrialization progress. Let me begin with the person who handles the government business, and then I will come to the minister and the UMA later. Dr. Birungi, where would you say we are at in terms of industrialization? Government led by the president, every public person, every private sector person, the song is that we need to industrialize. And like I said, industrialization means a lot. At what point are we in that progress?
Thank you, Charles. I think before I go to where we are, let me give a bit of perspective. Where did we start from?
Yeah. By
independence and so on. First of all, immediately after the end of the World War II, our colonial masters thought, I think we need to start in an industrialization journey. And in 1952, UDC was formed, UEB were formed in 1952, and the sole purpose they were formed, these two, was to industrialize this country. So the first 2 decades saw UDC a very successful institution. We had so many industries being established at that time. And at that time, we had industries like Agriculture Enterprises Corporation, which owned all the tea processing factories in the western part of the country. We had industries in the metal works, the Tampeco, the steel rolling mills, and so on. We had industries in the cotton processing, the Nyaitil, the Ugil. So a lot of industries came up during that time. Of course, the 70s, starting with the Nakivubo pronouncement of 1970 plus, and then the turmoil that we went through over those next 2 decades or next 15, 16 years, we definitely had a challenge. So all these institutions collapsed in one way or another. So when you're asking where are we must put this into perspective. Where did we start from? For example, when we got the new leadership into place. We got ourselves into a situation where the industrial agenda was completely down, and then we restarted this industrial agenda. And at that time, our neighbors were setting up industries in Kisumu next to us so that they can serve the Ugandan market for basic goods because we were not doing so ourselves. So since then, I can assure you all we need to do, or what the media needs to help us do, is to showcase what is happening in this country. Many of us live in Kampala here, but we don't know what is happening in Kapeka here, which is just a few kilometers away, 1 hour drive away from Kampala. We need to showcase what is happening in this country as regards the industrial agenda. I was discussing with my neighbor here before we started the show, is telling you that our presence on the shelves in the supermarkets has greatly increased or improved because of the agro-processing that is happening in this country. So there is a transformation that is happening. There is industrialization that is happening. It is still at a low stage, and the low stage is mainly the agro-value addition. But we've also seen mineral value addition. You're in town here, you're talking about Goodwill tiles. Where do they come from? Have you visited that place to see the kind of transformation? Have you visited that place to see the kind of trucks that are lining up to pick goods from there to take them to our neighboring countries? So there is a move in the right direction. There is a move in the right direction. Our brothers here in UMA are already doing a lot. They're already doing a lot, and a lot is happening. And I'm sure the chairman will invite us to go to the trade fair and see for ourselves, because there is exhibition going on that shows what is happening in the country. So I believe that there is a direction, a move in the right direction, but now we need to shift our industrialization agenda from basically value addition to science-driven industry, and also to the heavy manufacturing of motor vehicles and so on. Of course, someone will tell you that we already started on that agenda as well, but we need to move our industry agenda from agricultural value addition only to science-driven industry, production of pharmaceuticals and stuff like that, but also move on to do a little more in the heavy production. This country is endowed with the resources, and there are lots of these resources that we've not tapped into, like the enormous depots of iron and steel that we have. Okay. Would be big suppliers to the world of this. Okay. So I think where we are, there is an industrialization agenda that is happening. We need to showcase this more and better, and we also need to do a little more to move the agenda forward. Thank you.
Okay, Honorable David, the industrialization agenda, how we have been picking up, but what is the progress we are making as a country so far? What are the challenges that we are meeting? Are we employing enough young people, the working, age in these industries? Are we? Why is Dr. Birungi saying that we are not showcasing enough? Where is the missing link?
Thank you very much, Charis. First, we recognize that industrialization is a pathway to economic development. It's a pathway to job creation. It is a pathway to have rapid wealth creation in our country. And over the years, we have been making progress as a country. And we have heard from history that actually, in terms of real serious business, we have been at it for the last probably say 20 years, because from 1970, all those years that we are struggling, 1986, when the NRM government came into power, we had also to take some years, actually over 10 years, struggling with other internal conflicts like Kony and all that. So we have now stabilized in the 90s to do serious industrial work. And we came up with an industrial policy that we have been implementing over the years, and we see results now coming out. For example, in 1986, our contribution, the contribution by industrial sector was only at 5.6%. But as we speak now, the industrial sector contributes 27.4%. 27.4%. This is really a great contribution. And our target is that in the next 10 years, if we can put in the resources that are needed to develop, level the challenges that are facing now the manufacturers, namely the high cost of electricity, where we have committed that we are going to reduce this to 5 cents for the manufacturers, industrial parks, and other cluster industrial centers. If we can pump more money into UDB to reduce the cost of capital, provide patient capital, patient in the sense that it is affordable, it is cheap, but also long term. If we level all those challenges, I see ourselves moving forward. And we have registered enormous progress because our strategy of import substitution and export promotion seems to be making a lot of sense and progress. Now, the things that we were importing in 1986 are now being produced here. And I want to appreciate Chairman of WUMA and your colleagues for the contribution you are making to our country. You are the engine of growth, and we are just the drivers to provide you an environment where you can flourish. So we used to import tiles, but now tiles are produced here. There are times, Kayemba probably is a little bit older than all of us here, when actually we will not have enough iron sheets. As we speak now, we are producing iron sheets in our country. Killer Motors is doing a great job. Soon will be, and we launched an electric car in our country. So when you count one by one the import bill that we are knocking off every year, there are things that we are producing that were never produced here in Uganda. So our strategy is to make sure that whatever we are importing must be produced here. The bill that we are paying in Forex to import things of 7 billion now, Uganda shillings, is something that we are working on to make sure that that is repressed. And when we produce, not only produce for ourselves, but produce for other countries. You talked about opportunities and challenges, but I want to tell you that we have a lot of opportunities here as a country. First and foremost, we have natural resources to promote and support our industrialization agenda. For example, if you look at the coffee that we produce now, the iron ore that Patrick talked about, in excess of 300 million tons every year, and yet we're importing steel of close to $300 million every year. These are raw materials.
1 billion.
1 billion every year. These are raw materials that we can use to produce goods. Look at the minerals that we have. Gold alone, $12.8 trillion in reserves for gold. Tangling, excess of 3,000 trillion in US dollars of reserves. So all these we now want to harvest, and we have made a policy that we are not going to export raw materials. We want everything to be processed here. What do we do to achieve that? You've seen what the progress we are making in the oil and gas. The oil and gas, yes, we took long, but we have put all the regulations in place, the laws required, and now that we have signed the final financing agreement, we seem to be moving forward. The other opportunity that we have as a country and also as a region, the population. We have a young population. 78% of our population of grows now to 45 million, and which will be 100 million in the next by 2050, are young people. And these young people have the energies to work. So we want to give skills to these young people. These are people that will work in our factories. So where will you find jobs for Ugandans? The jobs are going to be found in manufacturing, when you set up factories and people go and work there. The jobs are going to be found in commercial farming, when you give support to people, families, so that they can make money, because jobs cannot be found in government. Government has a limitation. For example, now we're only employing 480,000 government, the whole of government. But Kayimba alone, as he told me, is employing over 600. This gentleman you sit with, Charis, is doing a great job. This afternoon when I was moving in his store, he told me he's paying 10 billion every year in taxes. 10 billion in taxes. So if these people are given the environment, are supported, will remove the challenges they are facing, the industrialization agenda will really move so rapidly. Okay. So to enhance the agenda, we are setting up 25 industrial parks. Because one of the challenges we continue to see is that investors come, both local and international, but they want to find a place where there is water, there is electricity, there is internet, so that they are ready to invest. So in the next 5 years, we are going to do 25 industrial parks. And this financial year, we made allocation of money for 5 industrial parks. And also, we are working on the one of Namamve. We have now resources close over 200 million euros to make sure that we put it to a standard. And when we do these industrial parks, we think we will attract more people to invest in our country. So you asked me, are we really making progress? Yes, we are making progress, and the proof and evidence is there, because the things that we used to import in 1986 have continuously been reduced every year. We continue to improve on what we are producing in here in the country and also in export.
Good. Mr. Kiyemba. It is Kiyemba. Kayemba.
Charles, why don't you call him chairman?
No, the name is, my producer called him Kiyembe. So I'm following some of the scripts that my producer wrote. Chairman, you have 2 tasks on this show. One is to give us a testimony of how to do it. The other, of course, is also sharing with us some of the available statistics and evidences to show where we are moving and how fast we are moving. How are you doing it? What are we doing right? What are those points of challenges that we need to plug?
Okay, thank you very much. From the perspective of an investor, a local investor, who I am,
Tell us also what you deal in.
My minister told me I'm the proprietor of East African Roofing Systems and Kadeco Concrete Limited, 2 companies which have a turnover of, we are paying tax of more than 10 billion a year. And given that situation...
So you are a rich man?
Not necessarily.
Why don't you accept?
No, but when you pay, to pay tax doesn't mean that you are rich.
No.
It means that, that you have good turnover.
You have to thank God.
Yes, I do.
If God has given you some gift, you thank Him and you say, yes, I do. I'm not poor.
But God has given me a gift of hard work.
Yes.
Of creating jobs for Ugandans.
Yeah.
Now has given me another task of mobilizing industrialists in Uganda.
Good.
Under the umbrella of Uganda Manufacturers Association, that I thank him for.
Yes.
Uganda Manufacturers Association, we are over 1,500 members, or manufacturers, and out of them, about 70% are SMEs.
Yeah.
We have the multinationals, we have the small ones, but I want to concentrate on that big band, the SMEs, because they form the backbone of our manufacturing sector.
Yeah.
And I thank the Honorable Minister that he has clearly highlighted areas that he is working to boost manufacturing. To give you a bit of statistics, as you asked me, over the last 60 years, manufacturing was contributing 8% to GDP. Now the minister just told you how much we are contributing to GDP. That is a big movement.
Yeah.
How have we done it? In the 60s, government was helping us to do it through UDC and other, that we set up tea factories, we set up coffee factory, coffee marketing board, and others. In the 70s, you know what happened? We got disrupted, industry were closed, the Asians were sent away, and all these things happened, and industry, it ground to almost to a close.
Yeah.
In fact, that time I was, in the early 80s, I was at a high school, and we had a minister for distribution of handouts to people to buy anything manufactured in Uganda. You had to go to industrial area, and the Honorable Piliga, I think it was called Piliga, would give you a note to get sugar, to get everything.
Piliga is someone who came from Moyo.
Yes. When the NRM government came to power, they prioritized private sector as the engine of growth. And this we thank the government, represented by Honorable Minister. But they have not done enough to push us. Because I've just been talking to my brother Birungi here. When these days, when you say PPP, we need to have a list of projects that qualify for PPPs so that we, the private sector, can assess ourselves and go there and apply to be PPP partners with UDC. This is not happening at all. And Mr. Birungi will tell you there is no single project that you can tell me now that you can come and participate in this project. So how is the government helping us in that area? The other aspect is, now it is being done, but in the past it was not done. The skills development. You don't know what is, you think we have a lot of unemployment. But if you go out there to look for technicians, to look for plumbers, to look for people to work on the machines, it's very difficult to find them. And we urge you, Honorable Minister, I urge you to go to your cabinet and tell them to replace the polytechnics they converted into universities, the Chambogos and all the others that were converted into universities to produce degrees when you wanted technical skills. And we need quite many of them. If we are going to develop as an industry, we need a lot of technical skills. Oil and gas only, the kind of numbers they want. So I think, Honorable Minister, what we may have to do is to sit and teach the Ministry of Education to tweak the curricula to focus more on skills development than the general education of university degrees. Because this country now needs skills development. The other aspect is about financing. Honorable Minister talked about, and my colleagues.
The cost of capital.
Cost of capital. You can't buy a machine, you can't develop industry when you are borrowing at 20% or plus. You cannot. If you do, you will not pay back. If you do, your own assets will be mortgaged. So that is the biggest challenge. The biggest challenge is cost of financing. You can talk we can talk of UDB, we can talk about UDC here, is because it's also a form. If somebody gives you equity in your company, it's a form of financing, and this is better. We are talking about 3,000, 5,000 industries. They cannot all go to UDB. We have to find some other mechanism of financing industry. I don't know how, Honorable Minister, but it has to be something that is uses patient capital to finance. Honorable Minister, there is...
How do you mean patient capital?
Patient capital is, you don't borrow, lend me money for 2 years. I'll not pay it back. If you lend me money at a low interest rate and give me enough time to turn around my business to pay you, that is being patient capital.
Patient capital.
And the more patient capital comes from investing, you can buy shares into my company, and that is patient capital, because you are not going to ask me for your shares if you are not going to ask me for a return if I'm not making money. When I make money, we both make money. Mm. So these instruments need to be revisited and made available to
the industrialist.
The other aspect, and both Honorable Minister and Dr. Birungi talked about, is how are we industrializing? We are industrializing by importing raw materials, add little value, and think we are industries, we are adding value, we are creating jobs, but the value addition is very small. If we are doing this for export, that's fine, because I spend the dollars, bring in the raw materials, and then I export, I earn more dollars. That's fine. But if you are importing raw materials for local consumption, that is a bit of a problem. So we need to identify areas where we have the locally available raw materials. Honorable Minister has been talking about iron ore. We have 300 million and 12 million tons of iron ore in the Honorable Minister's home district of Kabale. That can supply steel to the entire Africa and the part of Asia for a very long time. We are looking at the ore. Good enough, our president now has started a campaign of no export of our raw materials, and we must start now to use them now, not next year, not the other year. The oil we are already doing, the iron ore we are doing, the phosphates they are working, even other raw materials. That is a way to industrialize Uganda. That's when we can add real value to this country by saving foreign exchange. But if you are going to buy raw materials, come here, pack and sell, that is not industrialization. The last one, Charles, is taking advantage of areas where we have the biggest competitive advantage. That is our culture. It is not acceptable at all that when there is a coffee season, the price, no, maize, let me talk about maize, because coffee, we are exporting a lot of it. When there is a maize season, the price of maize falls to 300 shillings a kilo. And when there is a shortage, it shoots to 2,500. That is not acceptable in any economy. First of all, maize is food. And food security is paramount to any economy. And the application of maize has now gone beyond the table to poultry, to other industrial products. Let's develop concrete plans of financing the farmers, of buying their produce, and through science and innovation, adding value to the produce so that you can fetch much more money and sell to the region and the entire African continent, probably the world. These are the areas that we need to look at.
Thank you.
The EAC, last year, we have these trading blocks. East African Community, SADC, now we are in the EAC. The Africa Free Continent area. These are opportunities, enormous opportunities for Uganda. In the past, we are saying, oh, Uganda, we are disadvantaged. We are far off from the port, Mombasa or Dar es Salaam, so it's a disadvantage. Now we are at the center of Africa. How do you start calling it a disadvantage anymore? Now let's take advantage of our location in the African continent. Let's take advantage of our good soils. Let us take advantage of our rain. Let's take advantage of the sun and make a difference. We are all ready, Honorable Minister, to participate. My industrialists are yearning for ideas. My industrialists are yearning for opportunities. When you call for a trade delegation, say to Congo, everybody comes up, let's go to Congo. Lastly, Mr. Moderator, yes.
You haven't talked about power. You talked about the cost of electricity, the cost of capital.
My minister had already mentioned that, and he had given me assurance, because he had told you cost of power has been a problem to industry. But the president came out and said, if you are an industry, you are going to take power at 5 cents per kilowatt hour. And that is pretty cheap in the region. The only challenge, Honorable Minister, is that the way Uganda is set up, people have factories anywhere. For example, I'm in Zana. I'm not in an industrial area. So the Minister of Energy is telling us that we have a challenge to evacuate power to us at 5 cents per hour, because this power, if to qualify to be 5 cents per kilowatt hour, it has to be evacuated in bulk and landed
in an area,
in an industrial park. If you are not in an industrial park, you have to go through the distributor, which is Umeme, and the Umeme's tariffs will apply. We would like to ask the Honorable Minister of Industry to innovate around that area and provide us the power, because this is where you found us, and this is where the president called them Abatembuzi. We are Abatembuzi. Yeah. People, pioneers. We pioneer, go to some area and did work, very good work. So you cannot say, no, I'm not going to give you cheap power.
Okay.
But the Honorable Minister has given me that assurance that it is coming, and we are just waiting. We believe in the government.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. I'll come back to you, because you are the chairman of Uganda Manufacturers Association, and you have largely talked about urban areas and areas around central Uganda. The reason I was asking you about power, it is good that he's here. I see on a forum where he is with many of his young people, teachers, industrialists, crying every day, power outage, Gulu area, power outage, power outage.
But you have excess power. The president keeps saying you have excess power.
You will talk about that, and I'm sure Honorable Bahati will respond to you. Honorable, I beg your pardon?
I said decisively.
That's a good one.
I will also add on.
Okay, good. Now, Honorable Mapenduzi, you have heard Honorable Bahati. He's going to respond to the complaints decisively. But when we are talking about industrialization, we are talking about labor, we are talking about land. They have already referred to issues of cost of power. These are things that need to be, spread out across the country, and in order to, to lead to production. And you MPs, many times you have been accused of, looking on, and the complaints are coming from people like in the industrialists, like chairman, and they are not responded to with action. What's your take on that? Where are we getting it wrong?
You know, Ladit Charles, when the Honorable Minister says he's going to respond, I'm sure the responses are not different from what I have had for decades. Unfortunately, those responses do not add much.
What must we do right?
But of course, it's okay. It's good to listen. You brought it from an angle that is a bit provoking. And I will tell you our experiences in the North. And we have repeatedly expressed this. When you look at the current statistics, I think the records show that right now Uganda has about 5,000 industries. About 5,000. Which is commendable, which is good. Although the number is still small compared to other, if we are to fit in that competitive business environment. But 5,000 is a good step ahead.
That's active producing factories or industries?
Of course, majority of them, as Chairman said, are small scale.
Except small and medium.
Yeah, small and medium, but about 5,000. But when you look at this 5,000, you see how they are spreading. I think Ginger alone has over 100.
More than 100.
More than 100. And then now, when you look at the country, then you go to the areas you have mentioned, Gulu and northern Uganda, go to Arua and all that, where we have consistently had power problem. That becomes a big concern. I know there are a number of manufacturers who decided to walk out of Gulu when I was still district chairman, small and medium. And most of them were involved in agro, processing aspect. But they would come and say, look, how are we going to survive here? First, the cost of electricity is very high. It's unreliable. We cannot do much. I remember visiting a gentleman. He's called Chris Jomo Lotara. He out of frustration, he just dismantled this processing, facility and moved it to Kampala. And this is someone who was involved in seed oil production. He was doing cooking oil, and every time he would start, power would go off, and such a machine. The technology he was using, when power goes off in the middle of production, you have to remove everything. And that requires dismantling the machine and all that. He got frustrated and said, I'm leaving the North. He carried, I don't know where he has assembled. And there are so many. I remember there is a gentleman, there is a company called Array Agricultural something. They were into grain processing. Again, we had several meetings, including with the electricity guys. And they said, we are moving out of Gulu. So we have had these experiences. Yes, I know there are stories and there are some efforts being made, but how long does it take? And so that partly explains probably some of the the reason why we're having this slow pace and all that, the question of power availability and consistency in some parts is a factor, but also the other thing which you mentioned, high cost of electricity. Yes, the president issued directives and all that, but you see, it remains a problem. Maybe in some areas it's working, but I know, like in Gulu, there are many processing facilities that have failed to fit into the business environment because they have to spend so much to produce while the others spend less. So they cannot compete fairly. But you know, Charles, looking back 60 years and what we have now, obviously, the future looks good, but we need to confront some of these challenges that we are mentioning. And if we want to improve, we need to look at the country broadly and say, how do we deal with, how do we confront with some of these challenges from every part of the country? I know that between 1950, 1951, 1960, I think the sector as a contribution to GDP was about 11%. 1990, 1991, I think was at about 24 point something percent. Today stands at about 27 point something percent. Yeah, but when you look at the 2040 Uganda Vision 2040, it's a very ambitious plan. It's ambitious, and so that should guide us to do whatever it takes. I think the aspiration is to move from the 27 point something to about 31% by 2040. And there are specific targets that have been outlined in that. So the question is, how much effort are we putting to ensure that our own aspirations, as indicated in the Vision 2040, how do we ensure that we stick to that, but also put whatever resources and energy required to accelerate that? Because when you look at the vision, it looks at emphasizing the aspect of manufacturing, and then the aspect of innovation, then technology transfer and development, and then private sector development. So when we look at these four broad areas, how much are we putting to make sure we pursue that line and we can achieve? So, Honorable Minister, yes, you are obviously doing a lot, but sometimes the challenges that are clearly identified, when we don't tackle them correctly, we then shoot our own, legs and fail to run far. So these are things that, and I'm happy you pointed it out. Recently, there was a planned demonstration in West Nile over electricity. So if you have a part that is endowed with so much, but is not able to...
It's not on the national grid or what?
It is not on the national grid.
It's not on the national grid. Okay? So if you have a part, that very productive part, and look at Congo, look at how strategic it is, but then is not able to fairly participate in that sector. What contribution do we expect from that? So these are things that have to be talked about. Okay. Yes, the progress is being made, but I think we can go further than that.
Okay.
Yes.
Good points raised. I think that Honorable Minister will respond to these issues and from government, but that will be after Sarah's comments. I have seen the clock ticking. I need to go for a break very fast now, and then when we come back, I start with Sarah, and then bring in the minister to respond to some of this distribution of the, industrialization. Are we leaving some gray areas that is making us stagnate? That's the question that we must be asking ourselves. And for the chairman of UMA, we should be asking you, following the questions that are being thrown at Honorable Bahati, at government. You are Uganda Manufacturers Association. To what extent do you engage government to expand your base? We are talking about expanding the industrialization and widening the scope in order to grow the capacity, and we shall be growing the economy as well. But let's take a break right now, and we will be back.
Pick it, pack it, share it. The 4G WakaNet MiFi. Pocket it, use it, enjoy it. Visit any MTN service center or Banana Phone World outlets. Get it at 75K. The MTN 4G Pocket MiFi is it.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field couldn't be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite show.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
Get connected today with the My Airtel 4G smartphone, the most affordable smartphone in Uganda. You get to enjoy free 1 GB for the next 11 months. My Airtel 4G smartphone, your best value for money. Visit the nearest Airtel outlet today and get one at only 250,000 Uganda shillings. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Forget last season. Forget the oohs and ahs. Forget every moment that stole the show, because the real show is here on GoTV. It's the new season. It's action-packed, and it's going to be non-stop football. With over 1,000 games from more than 7 leagues and cup competitions, plus a World Cup. Make sure you get the best seat in the house this new football season. Get a GoCoder with 1 month of GoTV value for only 25,000 Uganda shillings and enjoy non-stop football. GoTV Uganda. Love it.
Do you need data collection services, data analysis and reporting, monitoring and evaluation systems? Then contact Molt Technologies, a professional research firm that has provided many organizations with timely research solutions for over 15 years. For more information, visit www.mt.co.ug or call us on 0704 913 399 or 0782 602 963. Visit our office in Kampala at Sayuni Complex in Tinda. Molt Technologies, your professional research firm.
Did you know that a cashless, secure, and convenient lifestyle is possible with Airtel Money Pay? Pay for your goods and services in the following simple steps. Dial *185*9#. Enter the merchant ID. Enter the amount. Enter payment reference, for example, school items. Please enter PIN to confirm. You will receive a confirmation message for a successful transaction. Airtel Money. Instant, secure, borderless.
Welcome back from the break, and I want to welcome you back to the second edition of today's Behind the Headlines. This Wednesday, the 5th of October 2022, and we are discussing Uganda at 60, the progress of industrialization in Uganda. How does it, contribute towards the growth of the economy and employing our young people? What are the challenges? And before we went for the break, the gentlemen had already made their contributions on the parameters so far covered, and we are asking ourselves what we need to do well, what we need to do right, and where are the gaps. Sarah, I needed to bring you on board at this point. The chairman spoke about the need to strengthen or prioritize the PPPs or public-private partnerships and make them stronger so that then greater growth can be realized. Honorable Mapenduzi referred to the issue of, yes, great progress has been made, but it can be made better. What are your thoughts?
You know, in 1952, the colonial administration established UDC, which is represented on the panel, together with the construction of Owen Falls Dam. And I think that was purposeful to say that one is the importance of the Uganda Development Corporation in industrialization, but two is then how do you drive the country? How do you transform into industrialization? You need power, you need all the other facilities. And after that evolution of industrialization, then Jinja emerged as Uganda's industrial hub. I think a tour of Jinja City, which is more or less like a ghost of its former, Jinja has failed to recover its former glory. You drive in Jinja City, at times you think there is a part you've not reached, there is a part you've not seen, right on the source of the Nile. Even driving to hotels, you are in darkness, you want to switch on your katochi to read the signpost of hotels. Each time I go to Jinja, I ask myself really what went wrong. To me, I think that is a demonstration of our industrial journey as a country. But quick comparisons, in 1960s, Uganda was at the same level with Taiwan in terms of industrialization. Taiwan's GDP is 20 times that of Uganda. But I want to highlight from even what the panelists have said, one is the issue of public-private partnerships, where Mr. Chiemba says the policies, the areas for partnerships are not clear. And in most times what we have seen, a manifestation of what goes into parliament is a political process, and at times shrouded by corruption. You can look at Rubowa Hospital, the recent examples of PPP. You can look at Munyonyo, where the provision was requested, bounced back. It is now re-emerging in a supplementary budget. Yet the money that we invested during Chogam, the shares that we bought disappeared in thin air, and the government is driving again to reinvest in Munyonyo with no clarity, with no accountability. And then you can look at Roko, the controversy surrounding Roko's PPP, which is also most recent, where the initial bill was 90 billion, and later it produced itself until it became 210 billion. And you wonder what that was about. But manufacturing alone contributes 15.4% of our GDP, and the industries contribute about 27.6%, according to January 2022 statistics by World Bank. So if you look at this data, it's a small composition of our GDP. We still have services dominating the GDP contribution, then in industries and agriculture are balancing in the 20s. Yet they have capacity for solving the job creation dilemma in the country. They have capacity, the two sectors, for quickly transforming the country into a middle income and later upper income country. And the investments we put in do not match the capacities of the organization. We have, I had hinted on the cost of electricity, but I think also we need to look at availability of electricity. We all have backup systems for our offices in Kampala. I have an office in Minister's Village, right near UNEP. But we can hardly spend a day without road shedding. Hardly. So we depend on generators, we depend on batteries in the city. We don't even have power to run offices. Yet each time the president takes to the podium, he talks about how the country is producing excess power. But also, according to UBC's latest statistics, we had 22% of the population on the connected to the national grid before COVID, but after COVID, the number shrank to 19%. So what are the efforts of taking power to the people if you have 19% of the population currently on the national grid? What industrialization are we talking about? And whose industrialization? What are our capacities to transform the country when we are in darkness? If we are producing excess power, how come nobody sees it and we are in darkness? Even for basic things like running an office, I need to buy batteries, I need to service batteries. Where is this excess power? If the people who even have capacity to consume power cannot see it, even the cost is very high compared even to East African rates. Why? And how shall we encourage people to get connected to the national grid when the cost is prohibitive? How shall we promote the cottages, the cottage factories, when the country is in darkness? What industrialization are we talking about? If you come to the Bubu policy, buy Uganda, build Uganda, which is a very good policy on paper. The minister said we are producing cars. Can we see a shift of government buying those cars that we produce under Bubu instead of supporting other factories? Why are you still importing? Moreover, the gazetteers, that half of our budget is still on vehicles. Even when we are saying tighten your belt, every year government is buying vehicles. Why don't you buy from Chira Motors under Bubu? Can we see a shift towards that? If you come to the issue of population, the Honorable Minister talked about population as an opportunity. Population growth would only be an opportunity if you have capacity to absorb the growing population in the labor market. The population growth rate of Uganda today, which is the highest in East Africa at 3.3% per annum, requires that we create 650 jobs per year. And those are 1,780 jobs per day. How far have we gone on that? And I know there are some government officials who encourage people to produce. Yet production without a plan for absorbing an active population becomes a disadvantage even for growth of GDP and economic growth. So what is our policy in that line? And what direction are we taking? And last, as I conclude, I think we need to look at issues of investment. Mr. Chembaret, they talked about access to capital. And then our policy for fully transforming the country, which includes putting everybody in the money economy. I know some people might talk about parish development model. I don't know whether that can produce cottages at a parish level. But again, how do you encourage cottage factories without power? How? But even we see governance failing us in parish development model, and as expected, corruption has already greatly affected the parish development model. So what is our clear policy and practical interventions as a country towards industrialization in this country?
Thank you very much. I'm now going to invite you. Feel free to interject with respect, of course, and because now we have laid down the major starting points, and let's now have a discussion. Feel free to interject or supplement or even complement a contribution. Honorable Minister, you have a lot on your plate to respond to, but some of them you have touched on, but the major one is the challenge on, that you have with promoting industrialization, ensuring that there is equitable distribution of industries across the country, and issues have been raised about what is really government doing to ensure that you know, the much talked about you know, partnerships like the PPPs are, you know, executed, that they're implemented to the latter. You can start with those, and then we will be that not enough is being done. Power you have already talked about, so we can leave that now for now.
Yeah, thank you very much, Charis and colleagues, for raising these issues. And I know there are so many Ugandans watching us who also have similar challenges that we need to address. On the point of distribution of factories across the country, Honorable Mapinduzi raised this issue. What we are trying to do now is to distribute these industrial parks, develop fully facilitated industrial parks across the country. And a lot of work will be done to do the feasibility studies, to know the industrial park in Chigezi, which is now going to be allocated, located in Soro. What will it specialize in? If you put an industrial park in Guru district, what will it be specialized in, depending on the raw materials that we have? So one way to distribute processing equipment across the country is through attracting private sector by establishing industrial parks to support them. The other one is under our investment arm of government, the UDC. And we have mapped out, as Patrick will tell you, some of the strategies that we want to work on to be able to put factories where the private sector has no appetite to invest, and yet there is a lot of production moving on. And indeed, production will increase as we implement the policy development model. So we want to focus on areas, for example, of starch production. We have a lot of cassava in the country which needs to be processed to be able to produce starch and feed the pharmaceutical companies that are importing starch from outside now. The pharmaceutical companies alone in the country use starch of over $100 million US, and yet this starch can be processed through through cassava. So through the investment arm of UDC, we want to go into those areas which are not attractive by the private sector. So processing of cassava, working out the factory of cocoa in Vundibujo, fruits, like we have started in Soroti, the fruit factory. I hope you people on the panel are taking our juice. It's very, 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 very good. I hope we are not taking South African. Ours from Soroti is really very,
we're actually
very
not
delicious.
We're not taking any. We are on water.
We need to try that.
Called what?
Teju.
Teju, the Teju juice.
Yeah.
You see? So those are the areas we want to put up a soluble plant for coffee, because we have a lot of coffee in place, but it's not being processed at the speed that we would want. So those are some of the strategies that, if we are implemented with resources available, then the factories, the processing equipment plants will be established across the country, putting up Irish potato plant, processing plant in Chigezi. So we have a plan, Honorable Mapinduzi and others who are listening, to ensure that development is distributed across the country. It's not only morally right, but also it's a constitutional right that development is distributed across the country. So in our planning for industrialization, this is at the back of our mind, and this is what we are working on. We are implementing, Sarah, we're implementing two important strategies that we think will industrialize this country. The first one is import substitution and export promotion. Make sure that everything that we're importing is produced here. And as Charlie said, you need to visit Kapeka, you need to go to Namamve, you need to go to Matuga Road, which we now want to really carve out and make it an industrial cluster to be able to facilitate the investors in that corridor to access electricity and water and all the facilities. So this strategy, as I said, is working. I can hear you say that the 26%, 27% is little compared to other sectors. But if you look at the jobs that we are creating, and the chairman will tell you with really pure statistics, over 2 million Ugandans being employed by manufacturing, the manufacturing sector, is not a mean achievement. Then, of course, if all goes well, the parish development model strategy will help us to increase our production. And as we set up these processing equipment, they work as value addition centers, but also offtake what will have been produced by the local people. Bubu, we have started, actually now it is a policy. As we finish up this factory by Kira, as Kira Motors finish up, we are saying anybody who wants now to use a bus from the government side should buy from these factories which are producing. And they will be producing buses that use the power, not diesel, electricity, not diesel, electric batteries, not diesel batteries. So we are going to support this company to the extent of their capacity to produce. So to me, I see a lot of progress.
Honorable Chira also makes nice limousines. Don't just buy buses.
Yes, and and we encourage people to buy what we produce in the country, to believe in what our manufacturers are producing. Sometimes we have got now to change the mindset, because sometimes when you go to a market, for example, if there is medicine market made in Uganda and made in UK, there is a lot of temptation to go to that one which is made in UK. And the reason is that there is a fear that maybe this one is not up to the standard. And we are working on the standards. Our Uganda National Bureau of Standards is putting systems in place so that you have the confidence that if a product is produced in Uganda, is of the same standard as that product produced in UK. We have had a few partnerships, the PPPs. We put in place a PPP law, which we're implementing, Chairman, and we do not have any problem with implementing this. I do not see a challenge of the implementation of the PPP unless it's so specific that we can address. So, Charles, those are some of the things that I see.
Charles,
okay.
if I may supplement,
yes,
what the Honourable Minister has said, from the UDC perspective, we have 5 key considerations in selection of projects in which we invest. Number 1, in response to what Chairman mentioned earlier, our first criteria is, do you utilize local raw materials? So all our facilities will be driven mainly by local raw materials, whether they are fruits produced locally, or whether it's tea leaves produced locally, or whether it is sugarcane produced locally, it's around local raw materials. Number two is, what transformative impact do you create to the community, either in terms of employment or in terms of household income enhancement? Number three, as the Honorable Minister said, is the trade balance, whether you are import substituting or export promoting. That is very critical to see. Today, you go to Moya, you'll find we co-invested with Bukona, and we are exporting all the ethanol that we produce from there to Kenya. You go to the west, you'll find that we have co-invested in the tea subsector, and we are exporting that. So we are moving into also import substitution, as the Honorable Minister has mentioned, gave some examples for starch and so on. Okay. Number four is regional distribution. That's why you don't find UDC projects concentrated in any particular area. So when I give you examples, I will tell you what we are doing in Soroti, what we intend to do in Moroto for the cement factory, what we intend to do in Nwoya, in Pader for starch, in Amuru for sugar, and the teas in the west, tea in Zombo, fruits in Yumbe. So we are spread across the entire country. And lastly is the local entrepreneurship development, because our aim is really to partner with the local. We build capacity, because our aim as UDC is not to remain in there. Our aim is go in, de-risk the area, let the private sector take lead. Once they grow into that capacity, step out and let them continue their lead forward.
Okay,
just a quick question, just
yes.
For the
yes. Let me bring in, Chairman, I'm coming to you, the lady first.
Okay, Honorable Minister, you need to tell us about power. Excess electricity that we generate, there is a lot of investment, Ujagari Dam, Isimba Dam. We don't have power in Kampala. Road shading is daily. But also the connection of Ugandans on the national grid. What are the strategies? How do you bring the cost of power down so that it's affordable? How do you promote industrialization without access to electricity?
Yeah, the power that we are producing by our own dams, Karuma and Isimba, is provided at a very cheap cost. Actually,
you mean Bujagali and Isimba?
Bujagali, Isimba.
No, not Karuma yet.
Not Bujagali. Bujagali is not.
No, Karuma,
Karuma and Isimba.
Isimba will be at close to 1 point something.
You mean the ones coming?
Yes.
Okay.
And the one that's already there. But the problem is the one of Bujagali, which is produced at a very high rate. And the way it has been working is that all this power is combined into one grid and then provided to the clients at a very high rate. So what the strategy we are using now is that let us use the power from our own source, which is cheap, and take it straight to the industrial parks at 5 cents. The second strategy is to invest in infrastructure to distribute power and transmit power, because you produce this power in excess, but it's not reaching the clients because it's not being transmitted from the source of production to where the power is needed. And as you know, we are now debating whether the concession of Umeme should continue. And that debate in the cabinet, I can tell you in the cabinet on Monday, we agreed that when it comes to 2025 March, when the concession ends, we pay off Umeme. Beginning with this year, we start paying off.
And then we say bye-bye to them.
We invest ourselves. Invest in transmission, invest in infrastructure like the wires and all the substations. For example, we are not having power in West Nile. We are not having power. We have power problems in West Nile, have power problems in Chigezi because, for example, in Chigezi, we don't have the substations. And this is what we are now working on. So the problem was the investment we made at the beginning, especially of Bujagali, which we are paying back at a very high cost, and therefore increasing the cost of electricity. But now the investment we're making in Simba and Karuma at a very cheap rate, and we think that once we have the capacity to transmit power, we'll be able to get power at a cheaper cost, especially beginning with the manufacturers. People in industrial parks and clusters of industries will get power very, very soon at a cost, after passing the electricity bill, at a cost of 5 cents, as we promised the manufacturers.
Chairman, Chairman, you had also many questions.
I just want to add on to power.
Yeah.
As the Honorable Minister said, the biggest problem to Honorable Mapinduzi here is the transmission, the infrastructure for transmitting power. And the problem is not even on the, it comes from the way the projects are structured by the current distributor. Because what they do, they use infrastructure that is replaceable so many times over its lifetime that they keep claiming this capital maintenance costs. How does it work? Honorable Mapinduzi, you know, from Luwero here, Kamdin up to a place now they are putting
the pylons.
They are putting the pylons and they are putting concrete poles. Yes. Why is it not happening all over the country? Why do we go for eucalyptus poles, which last 5 to 6 years, and don't use concrete poles that last 56 years? That's the big challenge. When you talk about the power availability and the reliability of the infrastructure, we should be able to not to do short-term projects, because you can put a power line very fast at a low cost, what you think is low, when you are looking at the cost of the project itself. But if you look at the life cycle cost of the project, it becomes very high. Very high. Eucalyptus pole, you replace it 5 times before you replace one concrete pole. So if you are going, Honorable Minister, to build a robust infrastructure, let's invest correctly and let's use the correct materials.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yes, Honorable
Mapinduzi. Thank you. I want to agree with Chairman entirely. And probably some people have been using that as a strategy to make money.
Exactly.
Because when you know that these wooden poles will last only 5 years or even less, because when you look at the section from Lira to Gulo, those swampy areas,
yes,
every rainy season, the poles are collapsing. They have to change. Probably that is how
only. Fire burning every year.
Fire burning, and then people going to do fishing, you know, in those swampy areas. And so every week you hear a pole has fallen, as they're replacing this, another one has fallen. And so I think
then you don't have power. Whenever it falls, 24 hours,
exactly.
36,
48. So that has been a problem. And it's true that now when you look at the line from Karomba, going to Kamdini to they are now using the concrete and pylons, which is good. But the other thing I wanted to say, in line with what the Honorable Minister said, I agree. I fully agree with you, Honorable Minister, that there are things you are trying to do. One of them is the establishment of the industrial parks, which is a very good initiative. But where I have a problem, Lady Charles, you see, in my world, when we agree with you that, you know, you have A, B, C, D to accomplish by this date, you need to do it. Because if there are planned activities and you don't do it, you must explain why you don't do it. I remember in 2008, Uganda Investment Authority went to Gulo and said they needed land for industrial park. We went, mobilized the community, people gave land. The people of Oding said, this is the area, over 600 acres. We travel, I don't know how many times with the Honorable Regan Okumu, the former member of Parliament, Faswa. more than 10 times to Ugandan Investment Authority. They requested, we did our part, we invited them, and they abandoned. After about 10 years, they came back, claiming to be doing the same thing. Again, we went to the same community. 2 years later, they abandoned. Now, what kind of, such people should be fired, Honorable Minister. So the problem is, even when you have very beautiful intentions, there are people who are less committed. And then next time, the committee will say, well, we think it's a game, we are not interested, and all that. These are things that seriously demotivate, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me read, I know we are running out of time, and we still have lots of discussions to go through, but let me read comments that have come from our viewers out there. Masiko Didson says, UDC, this is to Dr. Birungi, UDC should revert to the old UDC, not the agency that it is now. It should be a holding company with subsidiaries in key sectors active either singly or in PPPs. The recently passed Local Content Act will only be useful if PPP is operationalized. All the money in UDB for lending should instead be invested directly into UDC to manufacture. UDC now is no different from UCDA. That's what this one says. So, Doctor, you will respond to that. Walker from Aleb Tong district says, after 60 years, we have woken up to revive the same industries and infrastructures that we deliberately destroyed and disposed because it appeared like it was a project of past regimes. If the current government had continued from the same foundation left behind by former regimes, by now Uganda would be competing with Kenya and South Africa. That's from Walker. Wilson Bikangaga from Muyenga says, Mr. Kayemba has said it well. Therefore, both Honorable Bahati and Dr. Birungi should bring out the arrangements, guidelines in place for PPP to restate local SMEs to lead in local industrial developments. We are hit by the suicidal rate of interest when public-private partnership would come in handy. Please ask the two, Dr. Birungi and Honorable Bahati, to share some more light on these issues. Jingo Godfrey says, it could be a way to go, but we still need a helping hand, as in tax evasion, especially by the small-scale industries. There is an accusation here that the small-scale industries are not paying taxes, maybe well. Chairman, maybe these are your people. Okay. You will need to touch on that. Okay. Alfred from Bali says, talking about power, what happened to Bujagali power, because it's Isimba only being talked about? But Honorable, you have just talked about Bujagali. Oh. Secondly, in Soroti, we had meat packing factory. Is there hope of reviving it? Dr. Birungi, I don't know whether this goes to you. It was that there was a meat packing factory in Soroti. Is there a plan to revive it? If you think you can respond to that. But if not, maybe, Honorable Minister, if you have information on that, it's fine. Masiko from Charu Chambuza. Charu Chambuza. Says, transformative industrialization should be undertaken at East African community level. We established East African Development Corporation, owned by all partner states, with industries spread evenly across East Africa. The Kampala Agreement of 1975 focused on this. Mr. Ojok Frederick from Muyenga says, about industrialization progress in Uganda, I would like to say that there are industries in place from independence to date. However, most Ugandans employed in them provide semi-skilled labor and get very little pay, which leaves them in poverty. That's the view of Ojok Frederick. Ogwal Bernard from Lira says, President Yoweri Museveni declared 217 the year of mass industrialization. But while government officials are keenly aware of the importance of industrial policy, the effective implementation of the policy has been a major challenge. Second last, John Abaho from Chengera Town Council says, to the Executive Director of UDC, the high cost of capital impedes industrial growth and development for and by private investors. We need affordable but patient financing since the payback period of most investments is quite long. UDC and UDB can do better. Dr. Bironji, they are there for you. Finally, Lawrence from Masaka says, the Honorable Minister and the UDC representative, please, the Kisumu-based industries are still dominant in Uganda. We have never substituted Blue Band margarine and many similar products. For example, Kenya Tea Packers is making a kill in Western Uganda, a market that Kayonza and Igara Tea should be exploiting. Very interesting there. I don't know who wants to start first. Let's try to give it 2 minutes each of response. Dr. Bironji, you can start. Yours were a number. Then, so that we can remain with some 8 minutes to touch on independence message from you and Makerere University. Dr. Bironji.
No, thank you, viewers, for the very powerful and important questions. First, the question was, we need to revert to the old UDC. Of course, we can't revert fully to the old UDC because circumstances have changed. However, I acknowledge that the UDC Act of 2016 and the UDC Act of 1952, the core objectives are the same. The core objectives are the same, and it's not true that UDC is like any other public agency. Because it's a business arm of government, its law is a unique law. Its mandate is unique. Its positioning is unique. And the whole idea is exactly as the person mentioned, to go into investments. Either we go as UDC alone and we intervene, or we go with the private sector. Our preference is to go with the private sector because we have a core objective of developing capacity of the local investor by providing this kind of support, both in terms of financing, and our financing model at UDC is equity, is our core financing. If we are to do debt instruments, then we can only do debt instruments where we are already shareholders, so we can give a shareholder loan, but we don't give loans. So we do equity investments, which is, and I think the chairman had mentioned earlier, which is the patient capital colleagues are talking about. And therefore, the issue of high cost, I agree with you that if you can support UDC more, if government can finance and capitalize UDC better, definitely will play a key role in reducing the cost of capital by making sure that there is available long-term and patient capital. And that's our goal, that's our aim. And we are not short-termism in our planning, we are medium to long-term in our planning. And there was a question on Soroti meat processing facility. In the beef industry, we definitely have to intervene now. The market is enormous, especially the greater Middle East market, a $250 billion market in the GCC countries alone. We have to intervene in the beef industry. But for Soroti in particular, there is a private sector. And like I mentioned, UDC, we go in where the private sector is not taking root. So in Soroti in particular, there is a private sector who is leading this renaissance, if I may call it, for that industry agenda. And if it comes through for any kind of support, it's an area that we are willing to support as well. And lastly, on the Kisumu industries, yes, I mean, the basic tenet of trade is
free market.
Is a free market. The borders are open, and you trade where you have comparative advantage. So if Kenya has a comparative advantage in something, we have to accept it in the market. But in a number of commodities, I don't know whether people remember the white cap beer and so on, which used to come from across the border. They are no longer coming. They were import substituted by producing these products here. So the majority of the products that we used to get have been substituted. Doesn't mean that because we have substituted some of the commodities, then we must substitute each and every commodity. You've had situations where Uganda has had a positive trade balance over Kenya in the recent years. In other words, which means that Uganda was exporting more to Kenya than Kenya was exporting to Uganda. And this has happened for a number of years. So, which is a clear sign that there is trade happening, and Uganda will have a comparative advantage, especially in those agriculture commodities. And I think we are on the right direction.
Thank you. Chairman, you had your own questions, I think.
Yes, I had this call-up saying that my SME are avoiding taxi.
There are some avoiding. Evading. He actually said evading, which is criminal. If he had said avoiding, I wouldn't mind, because that is allowable.
Yeah, but I think the SME needs a lot of guidance, which we are doing, to teach them how to be tax compliant and to teach them the advantages of being tax compliant. We are working together with the Uganda Revenue Authority and the other institutions like UNBS to educate our members on the advantages of producing quality, on being tax compliant, and together with the new advancements that are coming in the tax space, like the IFRIS invoicing systems. I think these things are now issues of the past, maybe referring to years, because now you cannot evade tax, because if you are going to issue an invoice, it has to go through URA before it goes to the customer. Wow. How do you evade?
Yeah.
So I think these are issues of the past, and those who may be doing it may not be in business today. Okay. Because I don't see how you survive.
Okay. Yeah. Honorable, your questions.
Yeah, I think mine was one or two, but just to add on what the chairman has said, it's important each one of us, and especially small, medium enterprises, and indeed all companies, to understand that paying tax is not a punishment. Paying tax is a duty and responsibility of every citizen, of every company, to make a contribution to the development of the country. And therefore, that's the reason why we put very good tax regimes in place that balance between growth of companies, but also revenue correction to make sure that we finance the projects of the country. We need taxes. We need taxes to build roads, to facilitate transportation of the goods that we manufacture. We need taxes to be able to build electricity, to build dams, to give you power to produce the goods that you are producing. So therefore, the person who raised the question of encouraging our small and medium enterprises and all companies and individuals to pay tax was really spot on, and we want to support that view and encourage all of us to comply with tax. Somebody said, why can't you go back to the old UDC, like Patrick said, meaning that probably the best days of UDC are behind us, that in the past. I still believe that I still believe that the best days of UDC and indeed our country are ahead of us. UDC is going to make a very substantial contribution in the industrialization process of our country. As I said, focusing on those strategic areas where the private sector have no appetite to invest, where the private sector are hesitant and not coming at the speed that we are coming in as government. And I think by this, it will be a better strategy than what we had in the past, because the circumstances of the day are that the private sector has come in to invest in areas which don't make any sense for UDC to invest in. Let's focus on what we can do best and leave the rest to the private sector. And this is a strategy that we are using. If we encourage the private sector to invest, facilitate them, solve all the challenges they are facing, namely electricity, cost of capital, transportation. That's the reason why we now want to invest in the railway, and also invest in the water transport so that you can facilitate the movement of your raw materials. Put in place policies that support industrialization. For example, making sure that we don't export our raw materials without adding value. Then I think we'll be able to support the industrialization agenda of the country.
Thank you very much. If there is anything residual left in the comments, you will add it in your closing time. We have 1 minute each, and I need us to use them very effectively. Sarah, I'm starting with you. Two important things from tomorrow. One, Makerere at 100 years, and you know, an elaborate program for the celebration, including the unveiling of the Makerere at 100 monument, and then of course performances. The president is expected as the visitor to be the guest of honor, and there will be a lot of other activities at Makerere tomorrow, starting at 9 in the morning, and then of course on Sunday, Uganda marks 60 years officially as an independent nation. Your messages for those two?
One is to congratulate Makerere. I think they have lived for the motto of building for the future, and their 100 years of excellence has key achievements, but I hope that they are also reflecting on challenges for the 21st century and how to move fast as a university, especially in areas of innovation, areas of e-knowledge, transforming to the digital world, where Uganda seems to be slow, and that touches into our theme of industrialization. Because if you go under NDP3, there are key programs that are directly linked to manufacturing, innovation, technology transfer, development, then private sector programs. So I think even academics should be in line with development, should be in line with how the world has transformed. Many people are beginning to say that our standards of education are lower. Are we globally competitive? Are we? So to me, those are some of the reflections that I have for Makerere University, to make sure that the people who go through the hands of this great university are globally competitive, but also are able to again be employable. Because those, and even Chiemba talked about it, the issue of skills. Mm-hmm. What are you able to do when your degrees and certificates are put away? what kind of person are you? On the issue of Uganda at 60 independence, independence has 4 key areas. One is the political independence, which many countries fought for. Those that really put up the struggle for independence, and the words that re-echo in our ears are the words of Kwame Nkrumah, of seeking the political kingdom, then the rest shall be added unto you. So many of the African countries fought political independence, hoping that they would use self-rule, first of all to govern themselves better, but also to use that power then to develop social and economically. But to what extent have we achieved that? Unfortunately for Uganda, as we celebrate 60 years, 60 years is retirement age officially in our country. So if Uganda was a person that will retire on Sunday.
Don't retire a nation.
No, I'm coming. I'm just...
We are going nowhere.
No. Of course, a nation cannot retire. Okay. But the purpose I'm referring to that is...
the maturity.
By retirement, you have matured and you have given back to society. You are taking a back seat. But as the country now reaches this symbolic retirement age in our laws for citizens, we have never had peaceful transfer of power. We have had a recurrence of brutality, kidnaps, torture, abuse. Uganda develops 1 step forward, 3 steps backwards. And everything is entangled by the politics, because politics spoil the economic and social. And we cannot shy away from that or deceive ourselves that you cannot develop economically when the political is messed up. And we went through that phase of Idi Amin. So I think that as a country, we need to know that without meaningful democratization, everything else can go back and go to flames.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Honorable Mapenduzi.
Lady Charles, for the last 1 week, I have enjoyed using this beautiful pen.
That's from Makerere?
Designed by Makerere. Oh. And has a very beautiful writing on it, leveraging 100 years of excellence in building a transformed society.
That's actually the theme for the 100-year celebration.
Makerere has played a role, a very big role in this country, and we have to commend them for that. But there is a lot to be done, just like we discussed.
Commend them or commend you as well?
All of us. But as an institution, we take pride in whatever contribution the institution has made, and we have every reason to support so it doesn't go down the way many of us have expressed of late. A lot of things that were not going on well needs to be worked on. But definitely this is the giant that every Ugandan feels proud of and needs to be supported. Of course, there are now so many public universities that have been established, and all have to be supported because they play similar roles. But you see, you can't forget where you are from, and Makerere laid that foundation. So I will not say much. I want to wish the management, well in this effort, and also fully associate myself with the positive contributions they're making. For Uganda, as we prepare to celebrate 60 years of self-rule, we need to use the period to reflect deeply on the journey we have taken, but also how we firmly and also courageously begin to reshape the direction we want to take in the years ahead. There are definitely things, just like my sister Dr. Sarah put it, there are things that are not good for this country. And we don't need to, we need to talk boldly about them. We should not pride ourselves when we have cases of people being abducted by by armed people in day broad light. It doesn't sound, it's not good for a country that has been here for 60 years. There are many things that need to be addressed. So these are things that we have to confront as a country, and this is our country. We are not going to run away from it. So those who do not want to speak can continue enjoying their silence. But you see, whenever there are wrong things are going on, in some way it will reach you if you don't want to speak against it. So there are things that we have to condemn, but there are also strides that we have made, and we have to celebrate together. So we need to, and of course we don't need to spend so much time celebrating the things that we have done. We need to use whatever we have done well to build on and see how we can even do better. So we have more work to do than what we have so far achieved. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Doctor.
Thank you, Charles. As I mentioned earlier, on Makerere, I spent 15 years there as a lecturer, plus 3 years as a student. So that's 18 years of my life. So it has made me, and it has transformed this country. So congratulations to Makerere, definitely. And congratulations to the leadership that have made this possible. On independence, I can say congratulations, Your Excellency the President, our cabinet ministers, and the Ugandans at large. We congratulate you, and as UDC, we promise to be there to make it different. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Chairman.
Thank you very much. To Makerere, I send my best regards to the university administration. I'm a proud student of Makerere. They shaped me into what I am. However, I asked the university to teach one thing, which I continue talking about, to revisit the curriculum, so that what they churn out to us, the consumers, is what actually required. They should work very hard to change the old British curricula to producing students, graduates that fit the times of the job market. That's about Makerere. I'm a proud mutualite, and I love Makerere. On the independence, I would like to, like my colleagues, to wish the President, the honorable ministers, and all Ugandans a happy 60th Independence Day. We are happy that we have made it to 60. As Uganda Manufacturers Association, we have showcased Uganda at 60. And I invite all of you, my colleagues, and the entire public to come to Uganda Manufacturers Association. We have a trade fair which started on the 3rd and we end on Monday 10th. We are showcasing what Uganda can produce. Okay. We are showcasing what Uganda has been able to do over the 60 years. You will find in there, you will find factories like Madivani, whose age is matching the yes anniversary, and new industries. So please come and see what your country can produce. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable David Bahati.
Yeah, thank you very much. I want to congratulate Makerere University upon completing 100 years of existence. This has been 100 years of transforming lives, 100 years of innovation, and when you look at what they have been able to achieve, it's amazing. We can see Professor Tkodri with Kira Motors. There are so many people from Makerere that have made a contribution to our country and the world, and we are very, very grateful. I was at Rumumba Hall, I have very fond memories.
You don't look like a Lumumbist.
I'm a struggle.
You should have been a gentleman from Livingston.
Yeah, so we fond memories and we wish them the very best. And we committed that we are going to do what it takes to make sure that we overhaul and build those halls of residence and continue to support innovation and research at the university. I want to say that we're also very grateful to God that we have reached now 60 years of independence. You know, when you count the blessings of God, you'll be amazed on what we are able to achieve as a country. I know the last 60 years have been with challenges, but also there's a lot of progress. For example, now to know that a Ugandan can live for 63 years as life expectancy is something to thank God for. To see that every 5 years, despite what Sarah and Mapinduzi are saying, that every 5 years you go to the polls to choose your leader. Every 5 years you have an opportunity to choose your leader. There are times in the 70s when you don't think about even parliament or even going to the polls. To see that now we have generating our own revenue from 5.6 billion in 1986 now to 21 trillion, it's something that we need to thank God for. That you can move from one corner of the country on a tarmac road, from Kabale to Koboko on a tarmac road, is something that we should thank God for. In our own time, I have seen it in my life, that you would move from Kabale to Kampala within 2 days. Now I take 4 hours. So as a sign of gratitude, we shall also hold a national prayer breakfast on Saturday.
Pray for missing persons.
To pray and to come together and fellowship as a nation, as sisters and brothers. And we have invited people, those that have received the cards will be taking COVID test tomorrow. Professor Christiana from the ICT Catholic University in Austria is already here. Today we had him with His Grace Kazimba, have a chat, a man of God, very prominent pro-life promoter. We will be speaking at the National Prayer Breakfast with Bishop J.B. Masindi from Kenya. So it's going to be a very good time for us here at the State House on Saturday to show a sign of gratitude and seek God guidance as we move forward. So at 60 years, yes, we have much more to do, but we have achieved so much and we are very grateful to God.
Thank you all very much. And for me, I like reading symbols. I like reading symbolisms. And the last Makerere University dinner, there was a table which was for vice chancellors and representatives from other universities, public universities across the country. I think there were about 7, 8, or 9. And then all of them from different universities in the country were telling us about the years they were in Makerere. For me, that spoke about the impact that Makerere has made. You know, without Makerere University, there could never be other public universities, in other words, so to speak. And for me, I was in Makerere for 7 years, 3 doing mass communication, and then 4 years doing law. And they are all different years with different experiences. And we wish Makerere University great next 100 years, which we shall not attend in person, maybe our grandchildren. I usually joke that that is a given. We shall not be there for the next 100 years celebration. But they have a very good theme, leveraging the 100 years of excellence in building a transformed society. For me, I would like those of you, the 5 of you plus others, to take special interest in giving back to your alma mater and as they call it, the OBs and OGs, so that you have an active interest. For Uganda, I think I agree with Sarah and Honorable Mapinduzi. I am a proud Ugandan, but I try to hide my face when I see, you know, people being pushed into cars and all that, using the butt of a gun. It looks ugly, and I think we need to generally see how to address that. It's a painful experience, and it's always important to say that this is not good. Even a stain on a white shirt spoils the white shirt, the whiteness. So, Honorable Minister and your team, see how you can handle that. Otherwise, thank you all very much. I want to, in a special way, thank Dr. Birungi and his team of the Uganda Development Corporation for coming in to support, to ensure that we have this show with all the ideas, with the good research and the leads and everything they supported us with. Thanks a lot, Honorable, for ensuring that you know, we have this talk show, because without you and your participation, the show would have been dull, because we needed to hear from the persons in charge of industries. And the icing on the cake, Chairman from UMA, Uganda Manufacturers Association, you are actually the people in the kitchen, the people who do the work. So Dr. Birungi and Honorable Bahati would have talked, but you gave it the practical reality of what we are talking about. And thank you so much for your humility to accept to come here. It's a busy season for you, organizing the trade fair, and we hope you will come again. Honorable Mapenduzi and Sarah are always on the show. I cannot thank them enough. I really I don't take it for granted that you always drive from Gulu straight from the field, and sometimes Sarah from Nairobi, Bushenyi, to come and be on the show.
The other time from I think Dubai or Ethiopia.
From that was from Dubai.
Yes, from Dubai.
So thank you all very much, gentlemen and lady, and thanks to the team, Margaret, the technical team, and Etiang from the production team. Thank you all very much, and to you out there who watches and ensures that, especially those who send in their comments, feedback, and bring us candid feedback to make the show a better discussion. Thank you all very much. There are people who keep meeting me. One of them, some guy called Robert from Mbale, he met me and said, I don't sleep. This is the best show to watch in the land. We thank you and keep it up. Thank you all very much. God bless you. Bye-bye. Happy independence to all Ugandans, despite our challenges. Let's celebrate the good that 60 years bring. Thank you. Bye-bye.
This weekend on UBC.
According to market data, the cosmetics industry in Uganda grew by 50% from 2015 to 2018 to reach 45 million USDs. Its growth trajectory is set to continue with a forecast compound annual growth rate of 4.7%. Hope Cayenne is the brain, mind, passion, and shared driving machine behind the brand Frotextured.
I remember since I was, young, I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I've always wanted to, do something that's able to give me financial freedom. I don't remember a time in my teenage life when my hair looked nice. I constantly, even when I look at old pictures, I just hide them because my hair was a typical mess.
UBC, inspiring Uganda.
to target certain state institutions that he denounced as dysfunctional. The US and Britain supported the move, but despite claims that it would facilitate the country's future accession to the EU, the bloc itself did not appear ready to support the measures. Schmidt, however, has adamantly stood by his opinion and has had some strong words against local politicians.
Rubbish, full rubbish. People, I'm not sitting and standing here, I'm caring for this country. This is a town where people have lost their lives.